A shifting landscape, reassessing U.S. influence in the Middle East. The Middle East, a region long accustomed to the weight of U.S. foreign policy, is undergoing a profound transformation. Once the undisputed arbiter of regional affairs, the United States is now facing a more complex and multipolar environment. This shift is driven by a confluence of factors, including the rise of regional powers, the changing nature of security threats, and a growing perception of U.S. disengagement. The U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003 marked a turning point in the region's perception of American power. The protracted conflict, coupled with the rise of sectarian violence and the emergence of ISIS, raised questions about the efficacy of U.S. interventionism. This skepticism has been further fueled by the perceived U.S. reluctance to engage in resolving long-standing regional conflicts, such as the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the Syrian civil war. The U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021, while intended to end America's longest war, has also been interpreted by some as a sign of waning U.S. influence. The rise of regional powers, shifting sands of influence. As the U.S. grapples with its role in the Middle East, regional powers such as Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey are increasingly asserting themselves on the geopolitical stage. These countries, driven by a combination of national interests and ideological ambitions, are seeking to fill the perceived vacuum left by the U.S. Iran in particular has emerged as a major player in the region. Despite facing crippling economic sanctions, Tehran has managed to expand its influence through a network of proxies and allies across Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. Saudi Arabia, alarmed by Iran's growing assertiveness, has adopted a more assertive foreign policy of its own. The kingdom has intervened militarily in Yemen, engaged in a diplomatic standoff with Qatar, and sought to counter Iranian influence in Lebanon and Iraq. Turkey, under President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, has also pursued a more independent and assertive foreign policy. Ankara has launched military incursions into Syria, clashed with Greece over maritime borders, and sought to expand its influence in Libya and the eastern Mediterranean. Missile defense and regional security, a catalyst for change. The proliferation of ballistic missile technology in the Middle East has further complicated the regional security landscape. Countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia, driven by a desire to deter adversaries and project power, have invested heavily in developing their missile capabilities. Iran's missile program in particular has become a source of major concern for the U.S. and its allies. Tehran views its missile arsenal as a crucial deterrent against what it perceives as U.S. and Israeli aggression. The U.S. in response has sought to bolster the missile defense capabilities of its regional allies, including Israel and Saudi Arabia. However, these efforts have been met with criticism from some quarters, who argue that they risk fueling an arms race and could escalate regional tensions. The development of indigenous missile defense systems by countries like Iran and Turkey further underscores the shifting dynamics of regional security. These countries, once reliant on foreign suppliers, are now seeking to achieve greater self-sufficiency in their defense industries. Beyond the battlefield, the human cost of shifting alliances. The geopolitical shifts in the Middle East have had profound consequences for the lives of ordinary people. From the devastated streets of Aleppo to the refugee camps of Jordan, the human cost of conflict and instability is all too real. The Syrian civil war, now in its 11th year, has claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands of people and displaced millions more. The conflict has also fueled a humanitarian crisis of staggering proportions with millions in need of urgent assistance. The rise of ISIS, while territorially defeated, continues to pose a threat to regional stability. The group's ideology of hate and intolerance has fueled sectarian violence and terror attacks across the Middle East and beyond. The ongoing conflict in Yemen, often described as the world's worst humanitarian crisis, is another tragic example of the human toll of regional instability. Millions of Yemenis are facing famine, disease, and displacement as a result of the fighting. Section 5. The Iranian Nuclear Deal, a turning point in U.S.-Middle East relations. The Iranian Nuclear Deal, formerly known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, was a landmark agreement reached in 2015 between Iran and the P5+1, which includes China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom, the United States, plus Germany. The deal placed strict limits on Iran's nuclear program in exchange for the lifting of economic sanctions. The JCPOA was hailed by many as a diplomatic triumph, offering a path to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons and easing tensions in the region. However, the deal was met with fierce opposition from some quarters, particularly in the United States and Israel. In 2018, the Trump administration unilaterally withdrew the United States from the JCPOA and reimposed sanctions on Iran. The move was widely condemned by the international community and sparked a new cycle of tensions between Iran and the West. The Biden administration has expressed a willingness to rejoin the JCPOA, but talks to revive the deal have stalled. The future of the agreement remains uncertain, casting a long shadow over regional security. Section 6. The Abraham Accords, a new chapter. In a surprising development, the Trump administration brokered a series of normalization agreements between Israel and several Arab states, including the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan. These agreements, known as the Abraham Accords, marked a significant shift in the regional political landscape. The accords were driven by a convergence of interests, including shared concerns about Iran, economic opportunities, and a desire to move beyond historical animosities. The agreements have led to increased trade, tourism, and diplomatic engagement between Israel and its new Arab partners. However, the accords have also been met with criticism from some quarters, who argue that they have come at the expense of the Palestinian cause. The Palestinian leadership has condemned the agreements, viewing them as a betrayal of their aspirations for an independent state. The long-term impact of the Abraham Accords on regional stability and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains to be seen. However, they represent a potentially significant development in the Middle East's complex geopolitical landscape. Section 7. The future of U.S.-Middle East relations. The United States faces a number of challenges in navigating the evolving dynamics of the Middle East. The region is grappling with a complex array of interconnected issues, including political instability, economic disparities, sectarian tensions, and the threat of terrorism. The Biden administration has pledged to pursue a more calibrated and diplomatic approach to the region, emphasizing multilateralism and engagement with regional partners. However, the U.S. will need to balance its interests with the realities of a changing Middle East. One of the key challenges facing the U.S. is how to manage its relationship with Iran. The Biden administration has expressed a willingness to revive the JCPOA, but it remains to be seen whether a deal can be reached that satisfies all parties. The U.S. will also need to navigate the complex relationships between its regional allies, including Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. These countries have often divergent interests, and the U.S. will need to find ways to manage these differences while advancing its own objectives. Section 8. The need for dialogue and understanding. In an era of increasing polarization and mistrust, it is more important than ever to foster dialogue and understanding between the U.S. and the Middle East. Misperceptions and stereotypes on both sides can lead to miscalculations and hinder efforts to address shared challenges. People-to-people exchanges, cultural diplomacy, and educational programs can play a vital role in bridging divides and promoting mutual understanding. By fostering greater empathy and respect, we can create a more conducive environment for cooperation and progress. It is also essential to move beyond simplistic narratives that portray the Middle East as a monolithic bloc. The region is incredibly diverse, with a rich tapestry of cultures, languages, and religions. Recognizing this diversity is crucial for developing effective and nuanced policies. Section 9. Conclusion. Towards a more nuanced approach. The Middle East is at a crossroads. The old order is crumbling, and a new one is yet to be defined. The United States, while facing diminished influence, remains a key player in the region. However, it will need to adapt to the changing realities of a more multipolar Middle East. A successful U.S. policy towards the region will require a nuanced and pragmatic approach that prioritizes diplomacy, engagement, and a deep understanding of the region's complexities. By working with regional partners and fostering greater dialogue and understanding, the U.S. can help to shape a more peaceful and prosperous future for the Middle East.